This is the note card that I'm using, and I'm going to start my time right now. So the Kramer article that I was assigned to read and sort of present to you guys was talking about role incompatibility, or at least perceived role incompatibility within communication. And what Kramer framed this as was his role as a researcher, his role as an actor, and his role being in his church. And he specifically focused that on his church and his acting, because he was in a couple of plays that would have been questionable for someone of his status in the church because of the content of them, whether it be like vulgar language or drinking or presenting something about evolution. It would have been something that was something that he shouldn't have been doing because of his role in the church. And so in his research, he discusses how he looked back at the way that people perceived his roles throughout his 40 plus years of theater. And he discusses how important it is to strategically communicate to people. He talks about strategic silence, strategic disclosure, and full disclosure. So with strategic silence, for example, he discusses how with some people like church acquaintances, he might mention that he's an actor or he's doing it because of a research project, but he wouldn't necessarily discuss the content of the play. And then with strategic disclosure, it's sort of another thing where he's talking to people who he's probably friends with, who might be in a group at his church that he's closer to, but he's still not necessarily close enough to them to tell them everything about the play, to tell them everything about what he thinks about it and what he's doing in it. And then full disclosure, like with his friends and family, is he's going to tell them everything. He's going to say, yes, here's exactly what I'm doing. You guys should all come see it. That's the people that he is actively inviting to the plays. Then he also discusses how sometimes perceived role incompatibility can drop like an image bomb on someone, where they feel like they have this perfect picture of you in their head, and then you tell them something like, oh yeah, I'm an elder at my church, and I'm also going to be in this play where I'm drinking and swearing on the weekends, and that can totally distort their image of you. But for the most part, he found that the conflict occurred internally. While there was going to be people in his church who sort of looked down on him for doing the play, most of his perceived role incompatibility came from himself, where he was internally struggling with, oh, if I'm going to church and if I'm being in church, then it's going to be difficult for me to also be in this play and hold my values as the same things as they always are. Going on to methods, there was a couple that I wanted to touch on. So he talks about ethnography, which describes the culture from a cultural insider, and that's from Denson and Lin, 2003. And the autoethnography, which Kramer is specifically using, was where Kramer was the insider and he was writing reflectively and selectively about his 40 plus years of theater. And I thought that that was a really unique, interesting research method, because he discusses how he's just doing it for himself. He's not looking at anybody else. He's literally just looking at his 40 plus years of theater. And so the methods that he was using in comparison to our text, which lists out all of these things, he's mainly using ethnography, and then specifically within that autoethnography. And within those methods, he found in his research again that with himself, at least, the perceived role incompatibility was only within. Moving on to the ethics, in our understanding text about research, which is Croucher and Cron Mills in 2019, something that was really positive that I noticed was that he hit all 3 points that the ICF wants him to meet, which is respect, beneficence, and justice. But also, he was the only participant, so that wasn't exactly hard. Which brings me to the sort of negative side of the ethics and negative side of his research, which was that he was one person in one situation, or a couple of situations over his 40 years of theater, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be representative of everything. Thank you.